Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you're watching Save Today with Heather J. I'm somebody who has spent her entire adult life living paycheck to paycheck and being one life event away from financial crisis that's no longer sustainable. This budget and this channel are my attempt at creating a brighter financial future than my financial past has been. I've only been doing this since May of 2023. So at the time I'm filming this, it's 4 months going on 5. A very short period of time. I have already learned a lot about how I spend and where my weak points are and about what's a realistic budget, really. You know, I've made it further this time because of the channel and because of you guys than I ever have before in the past. So thank you. And I'm really glad that things are working out this time. Today's video, I actually filmed this video yesterday and decided I was done with it. And in reviewing it, realized I'm a bit scattered and all over the place. And so I'm going to try and be a little bit more focused and concise today and see if I can't get through this better. Part of the challenge is I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm stepping into kind of new territory and I'm changing in my head what my focus has been. Up to this point, I have been really hard driving on paying off debt, paying off debt, paying off debt. As of the end of September and heading into October, the only debt I have still standing in this carryover is my student loans. Student loans is not something I've ever had to pay before. I was in school until just about a year ago. And at the time I was done with school, we were already in a student loan payment freeze. And so I haven't needed to do that before. And so now I know that's coming. The first payments are due in October. I want to make sure I'm prepared for what those payments are going to be. So I have spent a lot of time in my head playing with that. So I'm going to focus on that a little bit in the beginning. And then as we get a little bit further in, there is something I'm planning on doing in February or March that is having an impact on how I spend and save money starting now. And so that's part of why I've been so scattered. I don't know what those things really look like, and I don't know what the right thing to do is. And I'm trying to figure that all out. So as we see here, I just have 2 student loans. Student loan number 1 is $4,500 and student loan number 2 is $2,481. Now there's 2 types of student loans and I have one of each. One is subsidized and one is unsubsidized. One does not earn interest until after you are out of school for X amount of time. I believe it was 6 months. I believe they gave you a grace period to get a job in your field. And then the other one is one that starts earning interest from the moment you receive that. And I don't know which subsidized and unsubsidized, which that is. But this first one isn't receiving interest until starting, this September is when interest started. October is when payments start. So that student loan number 1 had not been receiving interest up to this point. Student loan number 2 was earning interest from the moment I received it until the pause. And that's what we see here, $231 here. So all I have is $6,981 in student loans that need to start being paid in October. And I was really hard pressed to try and get everything out of my debt. I'm going to pull us up into June because that's when I had, that's July. Here's June. In June is when I kind of had the most stuff. I had $11,921 in debt that I was trying to get paid off May, June, July, August, and September. And I was able to get all of this other stuff taken care of so that all I had left was my student loans. So I really got a lot done in a very short period of time. I've been really hard driving those debts. So now I am down to just student loan number 1 and student loan number 2. And because I've never paid student loans, because they're different than traditional bills, I spent a lot of time this month on the website of my student loan provider trying to figure that out. And then eventually, once I kind of had a grasp, I think, in my head, then I called and spoke to somebody to confirm some of my understandings. And so I'm going to pull over here some of this gobbledygook that I was trying to make sense of. My interest rate is 3.8. It's really 3.76, but it was rounded up to 3.8. My monthly payment is $69.74. That does cover both of those student loans. So going forward, I'm just going to write it as student loan and not have a breakdown of student loan number 1 and student loan number 2, because my provider has combined those into a single payment. I'm going to combine those into a single line in my budgeting going forward. This was all of the different income-based payment plans that you could apply for. And I was trying to figure out what these are, what they meant, how they would impact, number 1, my monthly payment, number 2, the length of the term, and number 3, the amount of interest I would be charged. And ultimately, this gobbledygook is just gobbledygook. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I did not explore each individual option as far as like applying for any of that. But the payment stayed about the same, $70, $70. This one was $39 to $117, $63 to $70. And ultimately, I decided I can afford $69.74 a month as my base minimum. I can absolutely afford that. I don't need to try and apply for something that's less than that. So then, once I decided that that's fine, then I wanted to explore the option of, I'm going to flip the page here, and I'm sorry for my chicken scratch, but it's just easier to have this visual as I'm discussing some of these things. At $69.74, that's a 10-year payoff plan. I was really wanting to have my student loans paid off in 2 years. I don't want this to drag out for the next 10 years. I don't want to be writing this budget for the next 10 years and have student loans be a thing I'm paying for. So then I started looking at, if I paid extra above and beyond, what does that look like? And so that's kind of what this is. If I paid $100 a month, $175 a month, and that's what this was. And again, this wasn't giving me a breakdown of, I also wanted to know how much interest I was going to be charged over that length of time. So this did give me how much a month, what my total payment would be over the length of that loan, and when my ultimate payoff date would have been. And so then here I broke it down. If I only had 2 years, I don't know if I had a different calculator here or not, but here's where I got the information I was really searching for. If I wanted to pay off my loan in 2 years, I would need to pay $302.40 a month for the next 2 years. I would ultimately be paying $276.70 in interest, which would mean I had paid a total of $7,257.70, as opposed to this $6,900. If I just take that 10 years and that $69.74, I will have paid $1,405.28 in interest, making the total I have paid over the life of that 10 years $8,386.28. Again, compared to the $6,981. I don't want to pay $1,400 in interest. I don't. That's $1,100 more than this 2-year time frame was going to be. So that's what I was really kind of looking at. Where can I get it paid the shortest with the least amount of extra money? This interest is just, it's my money. It's free money I'm giving to the provider. And the more of that I can keep, the better off I'm going to be in the long run. So that's fine. I can find $300 a month in my budget and squeeze that out. I've managed this far to pay that extra amount of money in all of these other debts that I got paid off. But here's the thing. That has had me be extremely tight and have no flexibility in my budget. And I can't imagine maintaining for the next 2 solid years the level of intensity that I've had to maintain this last 5 months. I currently need new clothing and I can't afford to get that. I've literally worn holes in 3 of the last 4 pairs of pants I own in the thighs from rubbing together. And I don't have money in my budget to go get new pants. I honestly need new of every single article of clothing I own except for shirts. I need new socks, those have worn holes in them. I need a new pair of shoes that has a hole in the toe. I need new bras because the hooks are coming off. Like, it's time for me to redo my wardrobe. I'm not a clothes horse. I'm not somebody who goes shopping. There's not the extra funds for that. And I can't maintain that for the next 2 solid years. So right now, I'm going to have to pay the minimum and then when I can make larger payments. And maybe that ends up reducing my time frame down to 5 years instead of 10, instead of 2. But now I have the visual. Now I know what I'm looking forward for. And now I know how important that is to me. The other thing that's impacting and changing my thought process is in February or March, I would like to move again and go on to the next spot. My time in this location is pretty much done. I've done what I came here to do, and it's time for me to move on, I think. Now, I make plans, and things don't often work out the way I think they should. But that is my plan. I have to have a plan or something to work for, otherwise I'm just floundering. When we were looking at the end of July and in August at the amount of money I spent with this last move, having my all of my possessions be in pods and storage, that monthly storage fee, the shipping fee to have those shipped all the way over here, and the delivery fee to get that from, all of those fees ended up being about $7,000 all told over the course of a year. I really I feel the need to get a old retired U-Haul box truck to own for myself. They have them for sale, and the estimate is that I have here is $5,195. This estimate of what owning my own van forever and eternity is less than what I spent in my last move to get my possessions to where I was at. So for me, this seems like a very realistic thing to do. I know I move a lot. I have moved 34 times in my lifetime, and I am planning the next move. This is something, even if I only move the one more time, this is still less money than my last move. So this still makes financial sense to me. I will be, in the next year, starting my own business, and part of that business is going to be taking things to sell to festivals, fairs, farmers markets, and I will need a way to transport those. Again, a financial investment with this. This option is the cheapest option of the things I have looked at around. And because I move so much, I'm somebody who I've really looked at having a more mobile lifestyle in general, whether that's an RV, a rebuilt bus, living in a van. This U-Haul box truck has the potential to be built out into a living situation, whether that's long-term living or just traveling to these festivals and having a place to stay when I get there. So for all three of those reasons, I find that to be a financial investment that's worth it for my situation. But I don't yet have any savings for a down payment on this. I don't yet have great credit score. So I have to spend this next 6 months trying to deal with that in addition to getting this bill paid. I have a credit card that's being paid $200 a month right now. That will be over in February. In February, I only have like $30 left on that bill, and then that's gone. And then I do have the old rent that had a 10-month payment plan. I think my focus is going to be to get that old rent paid off faster than that 10 months is, and take what would have been the extra money for my student loans and redirect that as extra money into getting the old rent paid off, so that falls off my credit report sooner and can help increase my credit score. That's my thought process and what I'm thinking. I have not been in a position previously to really think ahead and pre-plan and pre-save for something like this U-Haul. So this month of September in the background has been a lot of like what if scenarios going on, and that is impacting kind of how I'm going to move my future. And so that's what my next couple of months is going to look like. October, November, December, those are going to be really spent trying to get my old debt paid down as much as I can and begin saving for a down payment on this vehicle. I had been thinking I was going to go ahead and get myself another credit card to start building my credit up that way. But I think if I get a credit card now, that's going to do a hard inquiry on my credit. And I may or may not get approved for that. It's October. We're heading into October now. If I have a hard credit September, October, and then we go November, December, January, February, that's only 4 months, maybe 5 if we wait until March. I think that's too soon to then have a second hard credit inquiry for this vehicle. So I'm going to hold off on getting that credit card until after I try and get this U-Haul. So that is kind of where I stand with my debts and desires. My debt has been reduced to just my student loans, and that's going to be the next focus going forward. My desires have not changed yet. Everything here is the same as it has been from May till now. I've not added a single thing on this. I've also not taken a single thing away from this because the focus has been up here in my debts. So my focus is beginning to change into what the next stage is going to look like for me. There's a lot of just what ifs at this point, and it's making it hard for me to kind of stay focused here. And so that's why my video, when I tried to film it yesterday, was so scattered. So I'm just going to run down this. I haven't covered anything up except for my current credit score here. I'm going to run down what this is. You've been staring at it this whole time. For my debts, I just have student loan number 1 at $4,500. I have student loan number 2 at $2,481, making my debt total $6,981. As soon as October starts, that's filtered into my October budget, and that stops being a debt here. Now, I will say, because I'm somebody who puts my head down and ignores all the bills, I feel quite certain that at some point I'm going to think I'm done and my debts are paid off, and something somewhere is going to float back to the surface and end up back on here. But right now I don't have any of those. It'd be great if that never ever happens. But I know how I do things, and I know how those things show up out of the blue. So I won't be surprised if something comes up here. And it's not because I'm currently making poor choices. It's because past poor choices have caught up with me. In my desires, I have this Sweet 16 handy quilter. This is a very large quilting machine with a deep throat space. It's a huge machine to quilt some of the larger quilts. I have several large quilts that I can't work on because they don't fit in my traditional home machines, and I can't afford and don't have the space for a long arm machine. And so because I can't ever own one, I don't want to rent time on one in the places where I can. So that's why that's on there. This has become a necessary thing. It's no longer just some idealistic, I'd like to have that, but it's not the highest priority. Then the U-Haul I just spent 10 minutes talking about. I want a steam juicer. It's $150. This is just for some canning stuff, and at this point hasn't become a real high priority. This makes it easy to get the juice from fruits where that's hard to get fruit from. In particular, I'm thinking pomegranates and blackberries, where they have so many seeds it's hard to get to that pulp. It's good for other things too, but those are the first two that come to my mind. I want a green bean Frencher. That's only 20 bucks, so I could definitely make that happen just even in this tight budget. But at this point, it's not a real high priority. It's just something I'd like to have someday. It's a canning project I'd like to take on at some point, but it's not hard pressed to be this month or next month. I'd like to get my hair cut and colored. It's been a year and a half at least since I've had that. I'm long overdue. And where I want to go is not just a quick cuts. I want to go to a quality place and get a quality haircut, and I'm willing to wait to have what I will be more likely to be happy with. Again, I need to get pants. That can't keep being put off. And I'd like a 3-way mirror because that makes it easier for me to do my apparel sewing, especially because I'm now at a point where I don't have somebody who's familiar with apparel sewing who would be able to help me out with fit issues. Those desires all equal up to $12,010. Those are likely going to not change a whole lot over the course of the next, honestly, 6 months. And then the next thing I go over here is my credit score. In April of 2020 is the soonest marker I have on my credit score. And at that time it was 582, which we see here is just barely in fair. I had gotten to the highest point my credit score had been in my tracking in June of 2021, and that was 695. We see here that I was right in the middle of good. And at that time, I was really pushing hard. I wanted to get from good to very good. I really wanted to get to the next stage. And unfortunately, a series of events happened. And then I went in September of 2022, I reached my lowest point on my record so far, or that I have access to, at 490, deep down here in poor. My current score is now 574, which is still in poor, but it's just barely in poor. And if things continue at the rate they have been, I may be just touching my toe into fair as we get into closing out October, and certainly as we get into November, unless things come up that I'm not currently aware of. So that is where I sit with my debts and desires. I have been very scrambled in my brain trying to figure out what student loan payments mean for me, and trying to figure out the logistics between these two and what's the higher priority and why and how I can make that happen. That is how I close out my debts and desires at the end of September. As we start walking into October, that's what I'm looking to carry forward with me. In my videos, after I'm done with my budgeting portion, I do go over a current project I've been working on. And in this month, I've been working on this Halloween decoration. And this, as a refresher, is the pattern I've been working with. It's the Halloween Twist by the Simply Twisted Designs. And it's a witch hat with a spider, and it's got a border and a frame here. The tool that we use, so how this works is you take 3.5-inch squares and just sew them together in a patchwork square by square by square pattern. And then you take this tool and you lay that over the seams of the square, and you cut around this tool on the seams, and then you resew your square by square by square, and it comes out with this jagged pattern. So you see where that's not really how that ended up being here. This is how that ended up being. So when you end up cutting that out, then you end up with this piece here that gets sewn together to the next square. Anyway, so this tool is the primitive, this is from Twisted Sisters, this primitive pinwheels. And so that goes in there. For anybody who wants to do this, this is what you're looking for, is this pinwheel. And this comes in several different sizes, this ruler, the specialty tool, so that you can have bigger and smaller pinwheels. This spider body was made with a yo-yo tool, and the yo-yo tool is in a package like this, and this is a 2-piece disc where the disc comes out of the case here. You put the fabric you want in the disc facing the bottom side, and then this pops in there, and then you cut the extra off of the edges here, and then fold your seams over after you've cut that edges, so you just have a little bit. And then you stitch through these holes, up and down through these holes. And then when you pull that out, you're left with, in fact, I haven't tied this in a knot. So anyway, then you pull the string and it turns into this little yo-yo button. And you can use these either direction. I did cut out a very specific over the specific spot to get that mark, where this is what you would have seen. And so I wasn't sure which color I wanted that spider to be, and ultimately this darker color is the color that worked out. This green one was a little bit glaring up against here and would have been a very noticeable spider. But this project as a whole is really completely done. I did get all of my quilting stitches in there and made that look like spider webs in there. I did get the back on. I got all my excess cut off as far as the back and the batting goes, and I did get this bound. And so it is complete. My spider body is on there. His legs were embroidered on. They don't show through to the back, although this back is so dark, it could have gone all the way through and it would have been just fine. I don't really have a hanging sleeve on there where I could put a rod through, but I can still put tacks in there and put that up on the wall. So this is done and complete. And I still have a couple more videos. I still have about 4 more days left in my month of September before October starts for me. And I will have a different project for October. I'm still trying to decide what that is. I have a project I'd like to get working on. That project would require me to spend some money, and I think I still don't want to do that. So then I have a different project I would like to work on that requires no money, but might take longer than a 4-week month is going to give me. I'm still playing with options. But that is it for this video. That is also it for this project in the background. And that's where we're at for today's video. So this was a little bit more controlled than the one I tried to put together yesterday. So hopefully this will come out a little bit more clear and you'll understand where I'm coming from and why. And then I will see you in a couple of days as we do week 4 closeout, week 4 spending overview, I mean, and then my paycheck number 2 closeout. So that is where I'm at. I thank you guys so much for sticking with me here till the end, and I will talk to you again in a couple of days. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing today, please have fun. Bye bye now.